welcome to another episode of Going All In, Get the Edge You Need to Succeed. I'm Dr. Erin McKinley, and today we have another awesome spotlight session with Sarah Ball from the University of Michigan Dietetic Internship based in Ann Arbor, Michigan. All right, welcome, Sarah, to the podcast. To get us started, tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey to RD, and how you landed at University of Michigan.
Sure, sounds good. Well, my full name is Sarah Ball, and I'm currently the Dietetic Internship Director here at the University of Michigan School of Public Health Internship. I have been with the University of Michigan itself for about the past 8 years since I moved to Ann Arbor. I started out, I guess I sort of had a long and winding career to dietetics. I knew that I loved nutrition from high school, but I didn't go directly in. I actually started out in nursing school as an undergrad, and after 2 years in nursing school, decided that wasn't for me and ended up getting my bachelor's of science in microbiology. And so my first job out of school was to work for a virology lab at Case Western University in Ohio. And through doing that, I realized that I loved lab work, but I really also loved public health and wellness, and had a huge interest in nutrition. And so I decided to go back for my Master's of Public Health with an emphasis on nutrition. And I got my degree from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I graduated in 2003, so I've been a registered dietitian for that is probably 18, going on almost 20 years, which is amazing. And I have done a kind of a myriad of jobs since. I have never held what I consider to be a traditional classic dietetics position, which might surprise some of you since I am an internship director. But I started out in research right from the get-go. I was kind of a study coordinator, and then I moved into project management on the research side, looking at childcare environments and how they could be made more conducive for obesity prevention in young children. And so just kind of following my husband around to the various universities he needed to move through for his career, I found myself doing a myriad of jobs like consulting and writing papers. And then when I landed at the University of Michigan, I took a job at the Nutrition Obesity Research Center. So I still work partly doing research, nutrition assessment mainly. And I help manage a core there. And then the majority of my time is obviously spent as the internship director. I've been the assistant internship director for about the past 4 years, and I just moved into the director role a few days ago when our previous director retired. So that is how I kind of came to where I am. So I'm just going to go ahead and start by telling all of the listeners here just a little bit about the School of Public Health at the University of Michigan. First of all, we offer everything from an undergrad to master's and doctoral degrees in public health. And we also have a fully online degree option, which is fairly new. And that's a degree in population and health sciences. But inside the School of Public Health, we have your pretty traditional departments. So we have biostatistics, environmental health, epidemiology, health behavior and health education, health management and policy, and nutritional sciences. And nutritional sciences is the youngest of the departments. We used to be housed within the Department of Environmental Health, but seeing as the huge growth in nutrition as a career choice for many people, we have been our own department for about the past, I believe it's like 5 years now, maybe going on 6. The University of Michigan, for those of you who don't know, is a huge research university. We're known for many things, but a couple of them are our research and our huge alumni network. So our mission here at the Dietetic Internship is really to develop diverse, entry-level registered dietitian nutritionists to serve the people worldwide by providing a comprehensive training experiences grounded in public health principles. And I think what's really important about our mission and what might differentiate us from other programs is truly the grounding in public health principles. While we train, obviously, dietitians to go on to do a variety of different jobs, including becoming clinical dietitians, we provide a much more comprehensive background in community health and public health principles. So the School of Public Health itself was founded in 1941, and we've had an internship program that exists since 1993. We are, like I alluded to, a community-based program. And nutrition has always been a part of the public health curriculum in general, even well before we were our own department. It's always been in there somewhere. Just a couple of fun facts that, I think it's always nice to know a little bit about the school and the departments. The School of Public Health actually founded Blue Cross Blue Shield, which I only recently discovered that was the case. If you've heard of NSF, which used to be the National Sanitation Foundation, it's now called NSF, that was founded within the School of Public Health as well. That still resides in Ann Arbor, but it's a huge worldwide group. If you've ever looked maybe on the back of some supplement bottles or water filters or things like that, you'll see the NSF logo. And incidentally, the first Earth Day was held at the University of Michigan. So that's where Earth Day got its start. Also, Thomas Francis conducted the largest field trials in history, proving that the Salk polio vaccine was safe, potent, and effective here, which is interesting because we're also one of the sites for the current research going on for the AstraZeneca COVID vaccine. So we clearly have a long history of vaccine development. And we have one of the largest archives of culinary materials in the United States, a huge body that goes back to the turn of the 18th century, talking all about different culinary things, which is kind of cool. If you're ever here and you're able to visit, that's a good thing to look at. So just a little bit about our program in general. These are kind of questions I think every budding person going into an internship wants to know. Our first time RD pass rate, and this is a 5-year average, is 93.5% with an overall pass rate of 100%. Those who choose to go on to take the dietitian exam pass, basically, is the end result. And rarely do we have people who choose not to take it. Our employment rate is nearing 100% within 6 months of graduation. Most of our interns easily find jobs, either in the area or outside this area. We, again, though we are a community-based program and we do provide comprehensive training grounded in public health principles, we produce dietitians that go on to be employed in a multitude of areas. As you can see from this graph, about a third go on to become outpatient clinical dietitians, about a third go on to be inpatient or dietitians in skilled nursing facilities, and then a little less than a third go on to become community public health or wellness dietitians. And we always have people who go on to do kind of just cool and unusual things, and many people who actually choose to go on and pursue a doctoral degree afterwards as well. So as I stated earlier, Michigan's really known for its huge alumni network. That's something that if you ever come here, you will hear over and over and over again. Besides the Block M, which is I was just told the other day, the most recognizable logo in America or something crazy like that. We are known for our alumni network. So this is just a smattering of where our internship graduates have ended up post-graduation. Again, while a lot choose to stay in Michigan, maybe they were from Michigan to begin with, we do have graduates go on to positions all over the United States. So we ourselves have built quite a great alumni network, which has proved extremely important this year for outside preceptor opportunities and for things to be done remotely. So we've really, really opened up those capabilities. So just some nitty gritty details. And I think one of the things I want to make clear going into this is we are a program that's postgraduate degree. So in order to be eligible for our internship, you have to hold a graduate degree. Does not mean that you have to hold a graduate degree in nutrition. However, it can be business. It can be, was talking to somebody today who has an exercise science graduate degree. So it can be any kind of graduate degree combined with your dietetics education. And you would be able to apply. We are what is known as a pre-select program, which means that we first and foremost pre-select our internship class from our own graduate students. So we are right in the midst of actually accepting applications for our next class right now. We have almost since I've been here always taken interns from the DICAS match. But this year we find ourselves in a really unusual position of having to fill almost a third of our 30 positions from diecast. So it's a really, really great time to apply to our program because this is a little bit unusual for us. We rarely have the opportunity to take this many interns from outside of our own institution. So we accept 30 interns a year. Our traditional start date is right after the 4th of July holiday, depending on kind of when that starts and what day of the week it falls on. So this year, I anticipate our start date will be July 12th. Our internship is about a 7 to 8 month full-time internship. We provide 1,280 supervised practice hours, but we do allow for a 200-hour credit reduction awarded for prior learning experiences. So a good portion of our students only complete 1080 supervised practice hours, which generally gets people done early in February if they're going full-time. So we do offer both a full-time and a part-time option, which I know can be really helpful, knowing that it is hard to do a full-time internship and support yourself financially. And so a lot of our students or interns really want to be able to work. And this allows them the opportunity to work a little bit more. So what I mean by part-time is that instead of doing the internship for 5 full days a week or for 40 hours, they do it for 3 or 4 days a week. So it's still full-time on those 3 or 4 days, but they're just very designated days that they do their supervised practice. And we have a couple interns every year who take advantage of this option. So it's a really nice option. And that 1 hour or 1 day a week reduction actually only gets you out of the program about 4 to 5 weeks later than everyone else. So it's really feasible. And our current internship rates are $8,000. So just wanted to talk a little bit about our rotations and kind of how we set things up, because we are a little bit different than a lot of traditional programs in that we don't provide a huge amount of in-hospital clinical hours. So these are approximate hours. They do change based on circumstances. They change based on individuality, and they are just estimates. But traditionally, this is kind of the pattern that we follow. So generally, interns spend 4 weeks or 160 hours in an inpatient hospital experience. They generally fill the rest of their clinical experiences through outpatient clinics and a skilled nursing facility rotation. So a majority of our clinical hours are really done in outpatient clinical settings, which is nice, I think, because that's a great amount of people want to go out to become outpatient dietitians anyway. And so this allows them a lot of experience across a variety of different practice areas. Traditionally, people spend about 4 to 8 weeks in a community rotation. And actually, that's, now that I'm looking at it, that's incorrect. Almost everybody does 4 weeks in a community setting, especially if they're taking the prior learning hours reduction. Everybody does 3 weeks in a WIC or a child nutrition services rotation. And so for us, that's always been WIC or Head Start. We have several rotations at Head Start facilities and a couple of opportunities for doing maternal infant health programs. And then again, unlike a lot of programs, we have lesser hours in food service. So our interns spend 4 weeks in a food service management rotation. And then we also allow for an optional elective. So this can look pretty much anything that the intern wants it to look. We try to keep it to 2 to 3 weeks because 4 weeks is getting really crowded. But we definitely are flexible when needed. And this elective option really allows interns to pursue a lot of their own interests. We've had people do food production. We've had people work in businesses. We've had people do wellness, like for different companies, corporate wellness. We've had folks who really want to dive further into eating disorders. That's a very popular thing people do. Trying to think of some other elective rotations. Food and Nutrition Magazine used to offer a rotation, and we had students or interns go and work with them. the Center for Science in the Public Interest in DC, USDA. So we've had, a variety of different things our interns have chosen to pursue. So just to tell you a little bit about our clinical rotations, where they are, although this might not make a lot of sense to people who aren't from the Michigan area, but our goal in clinical rotations is really to provide that solid foundation in medical nutrition therapy concepts, the nutrition care process, and nutrition counseling, and really solidify all that stuff that you've learned in class and how do you obviously apply it in a clinical setting. We use our own facilities here at Michigan Medicine, which is a world-renowned hospital. We also use other local hospitals, St. Joe's Health, Ascension, and the VA, and then a variety of different skilled nursing facilities in the area. So talking a little bit about our community rotations, again, the goal here is really to provide an understanding of how nutrition education can be implemented in an individual's personal environment and explore the social determinants of health in a variety of settings. So this is really taking those public health concepts a lot of our students have and putting them into play in a person's own environment. And we do this through Meals on Wheels, the Washtenaw County Health Department, which is right here, other county health departments. Food Gatherers is our local food rescue organization that provides for a food pantry and a community kitchen and does a lot of the food security and security work in our county. And then we have a variety of other community rotations in different organizations as they kind of exist in the university and in our area. And lastly, food service management is obviously a big portion of any dietetic internship. And that's the goal here is really to provide a comprehensive overview of how food service operations run from start to finish. So we use our own residential dining program here at the university for a lot of our rotations, Michigan Medicine, the hospital dining, St. Joe's, and then we use some of our local public schools as well, and the VA. So students really get to choose, or at least preference, whether they would like to work within public school, the hospital, or residential dining. So just to kind of go through some frequently asked questions, things I think I always hear people ask, or I kind of sort of feel like you're going to want to know. So what makes for a really strong candidate? And I think that this is often a very subjective answer, because I think the answer is probably different for everybody. But for me, a really strong candidate comes with good oral and written communication skills, because it's just so important for us as dietitians. Is how are we going to communicate to the public and to each other? Additionally, like I stated, you have to come with a graduate degree or about to, finish up your graduate degree. I think somebody who's shown that they are very interested in the field and has made efforts to at least explore different areas of dietetics, whether through volunteer experiences or part-time jobs, that makes for a really strong candidate as well. And, I say or think one of the biggest emphasis I really put on the application is those recommendations and what others kind of say about you as a person and as a candidate. So how far can I expect to drive for rotations as an intern? So we place people up to 60 miles away from the School of Public Health here in Ann Arbor. So usually in the southeastern Michigan area. Fortunately for us, we're pretty close to the border of Ohio. So northern Ohio, the Toledo area offers itself up for some potential rotation opportunities. And additionally, sometimes our interns choose to live at home, which may be outside of Ann Arbor. And we have a lot of affiliations and agreements worked out further than that 60-mile radius as well. But we know that it's a burden to drive, and so we do try to keep it as close as possible, but there is an expectation that you may have to travel some. But not like some schools where you may have to move or leave the area for a couple weeks' time to go do something. Can I explore rotations on my own? We're a super flexible, we pride ourselves on being a super flexible program where we really try to meet you where you are and where you want to go and how can we facilitate that for you. And so you are allowed to explore potential opportunities on your own, whether that's in the southeastern Michigan area through placements that we already don't have, or whether those are distance rotations as well. We do accept a couple of completely distant interns a year. So those who really don't do any of their rotations in Michigan or the Ann Arbor area. But everybody is allowed the opportunity to explore outside rotations as they like. We help with that, of course, but the onus is really on the intern to make sure that they're getting what they want, and we kind of help facilitate from there. We encourage people to use that option for their elective rotation, but we have had people do WIC rotations in other cities, community rotations, food service, and the like. So there are definitely opportunities there. Do you use GRE scores? We do not take into account GRE scores at this point in time. We actually haven't used them for a couple of years, though we've asked for them. This is the first year we're not even looking at them or asking for them. Obviously we know that we're in a time and a place where GRE scores are controversial in general, and then also just really sometimes they're hard to. Even last year, doing the GRE was hard. So we don't really look at that as part of our rubric scoring for our applicants. The fee for our match application is $75. So as I'm sure everybody who's looked into the DICAS and D&D match option, you have to pay a fee to DICAS, a fee to D&D Digital, and then a fee to usually the program in which you want to apply. So our personal fee is $75. I get asked every year, especially by our own students, because our students graduate generally in the first week of May, can I start early? And I will say we've never started right after graduation, one, so that we can accommodate students coming from different universities, and two, because we really feel it's in everyone's best interest to give someone some time off between their graduate education and the internship, just to avoid burnout. So yes, we do allow folks to start early if they can, or if they're able to, or if they'd like to. I have a couple people who might do some rotations here and there throughout May and June. But those are harder to set up, and we have to have sort of the affiliation already going. And no matter what, I always encourage people to take some time off in there somewhere. Can I take vacation and days off? Again, we pride ourselves in being a really flexible program. And so, yes, if you know ahead of time that you've got a family vacation in September, let us know, and we just won't schedule you for rotations that week. So it's never the expectation that our interns are moving lock and step with each other. Everybody's rotation schedule is very different. Again, people start at different times sometimes, even though our orientation is at the specific time. People in time at different times, people go part-time, people go full-time, people choose not to take the prior learning and have those extra 200 hours some years. So we allow for all of those different opportunities. So taking a vacation is not a problem. Built into our internship, we generally give the 3 days right before Thanksgiving as kind of project work days. So there are no rotations, so that you can travel during that time if you'd like. And then the last 2 weeks of December during the myriad of holidays is always a time off. Basically, we follow the university holiday schedule. So that means Labor Day, and if you happen to be around before, obviously no 4th of July. Do we offer a payment plan? We do. So you can choose to pay the fee up front, or you can choose to have it split into 4 payments for an additional, I think it's an additional $50 fee a payment just for processing. So we do have that option available, which some do take advantage of. Do we provide medical insurance? We do not. So you do have to provide for your own medical insurance while you're in the program. So I am at the end of my presentation, but I hear, Erin, that you've got a lot of questions, so I'm happy to entertain those.
Yes, thank you for that overview. That was very thorough. I think you answered almost all of my backup questions. So I'm going to roll right into the 5 questions that I ask every program that comes on the podcast. And these questions were put together with the help of my students here at LSU to make sure I was asking the questions and getting the answers that they wanted to hear from different programs. So the first one is, what is something in particular that you just really love to see when you're reading an applicant's personal statement?
So I love to see a little bit about their journey and personally why nutrition is important to them. And not everybody has to have a great story. So I'm not looking for you to, have had this momentous moment in your life that drew you into nutrition, but I do like to know your journey and your path and your story and why you're interested. Obviously, as somebody who has to look at a lot of applications, reading things that aren't dry and boring is really helpful to engage the reader a little bit. And again, I think that's where your personal journey and story is handy. But in every application, I really like to see your strengths and your weaknesses. We all have them, so I like to see those addressed. And I will say the personal statement is a great place to address those things that you might know are coming in your application that don't look so favorable upon yourself. So if you got a D in a class and had to retake it, cool. It happens to all of us. But why? Like, what happened? Why, address that. If you know that you've got a recommendation that might be less than stellar or not what you want, or that there's something that your professors have told you over and over again you need to work on, we want to know about it. So just don't think that by not talking about those things that's good. Again, we all have weaknesses, so want to know what yours are.
All right. Well, my next question is a true or false question. True or false, an applicant's resume should be 1 page and 1 page only. Either way, why?
Okay. I was going to say, I got a long answer to that, but I'd say false. I mean, honestly, I don't spend a lot of time looking at the resume, mainly because if I remember from the DICAS application, you lay all that out in a pretty standard format anyway. However, resumes can be very helpful to provide a little bit more context. I will say a resume that's so short that you glean no information from it's not great, but a resume that's so long that I have to dig through extraneous information isn't good either. So there's a really nice medium where it gives appropriate information without overwhelming somebody. Because if I were to receive a 10-page resume from somebody who just graduated and is 24 and has their graduate degree, I feel like they're probably just not that well accomplished at this point. It's unnecessary. And you're probably telling me a lot of stuff that I'm not going to read anyway because it's 10 pages and I've got a bunch of applications to look through. So, 2 to 3 pages is probably A-okay.
All right. So thinking about the things that the applicants may do, and this could be in the application itself or maybe in some interaction you have with them prior to receiving that application, what are some things that an applicant may do that might raise some red flags for you to where you might think, okay, maybe this person's not the best fit for our program?
There are very few red flags, but I will say communication is really important. So, and this comes from a pretty recent communication I got from a potential applicant. And this is why it's really fresh in my mind. If you're going to reach out, I love to receive emails asking questions. I hopped on Zoom with somebody today to answer questions. So I welcome those opportunities. However, if you're going to do that, communicate well with the understanding that we're all busy people with responsibilities, and it should be professional and respectful and not demanding. I recently received an email that told me what I needed to do to send to this person so they could make it for their application. And I gotta be honest, I just responded, I'm happy to answer some questions by phone, but I'm not gonna send these things. And then that gets stuck in my head, right? So when I see her name pop up on an application, I might, that biases my perspective. Whereas the lovely woman I spent 10 minutes on Zoom with today, her name was going to stick in my head as somebody who was very respectful, asked great questions, and, didn't waste my time. So there's one red flag, just be really cognizant that, as directors, we're dealing with a lot of applicants, not just you.
What is one area of the program that you're really working on trying to make an even better experience for the interns?
Yes, I'm actually so glad you asked this question because it's something that we are really working on right now in a multitude of different ways. So right now for our current or our incoming internship class, we are forming, so for those of you who don't know, which is probably a good majority of, there is the University of Michigan and there is Michigan Medicine, the health system. And of course they are contained under the same University of Michigan umbrella, but they are in fact two entities as well. And the Michigan Medicine health system used to have their own internship program. And as of this year, they have decided not to move forward with any more internship class. They were a heavily clinical focused internship. And so while we are not, and we were a part of the University of Michigan, we actually had very little interaction with our own health system, which is a major world-renowned institution that is literally across the street from my office. And that was a bummer. We just weren't given as much access as we would have wanted. And with the closing of their program, they have graciously reached out and would like to fulfill their own education mission and goals through partnering with us. And so we've heard from our own students over the past couple of years, there are some that want a more robust clinical experience, but they still want to remain true to their public health background and they would like to stick with us as an internship. And so what we're hoping to do, and we are just in the beginning stages of fleshing this out, is to create a kind of a more robust clinical experience for a set amount of people who might be interested in that. And then outside of that, we're really just happy to know that we're going to be given a lot more access to our own hospital and facilities. So that is immediately what we are doing. But we are also have just applied for the last, or potentially the last round for the demonstration programs for the future education model. And so we did apply for a future graduate program. And so we're really hoping over the next few years, assuming that that gets accepted, that we're going to turn, kind of re-envision our education, dietetics education overall, and really wrap that graduate degree piece into our experiential learning for a more complete experience. And I think this will just be really beneficial for the student intern overall.
So my last question is a two-part question. And the first is, what would be the 3 best adjectives, descriptors, or phrases that you feel best describe your program overall?
Well, I think I've used this word a couple times today, and that's flexible. We try to remain really flexible to meet your needs. And then, of course, we ask that you remain as flexible as possible, too, because things happen. Like I think we all know this year has been a year of being flexible and pivoting when maybe sometimes we don't want to. I would also say we're a program that's traditionally gone for breadth over depth. And so we really like to give our interns a variety of different experiences, even if they may be short. A lot of our experiences are 2 weeks, so that you can experience a variety of different things. So that's another one. And then I would just say, like, fun. We really like to try to make this as fun as possible. Myself, I'm an understanding, empathetic human, and so I know everybody struggles. This is a hard time in your educational journey, and so the more fun we can bring to this, the better it'll be for everybody.
All right. Well, the second half is very similar to the first. It would be 3 adjectives, descriptors, or phrases to describe your ideal applicant.
Flexible, for sure. Absolutely. Just the ability to pivot and move with the times and the changes. I would say just a really good communicator. And I don't mean that as in like you have to have some sort of great ability to write out your thoughts, but just the knowledge that communication is key in how you communicate with your peers and your supervisors and your preceptors can really make for a great experience for you or a hard experience for you. in general, I think the interns that have the best experiences are really willing to step outside their comfort zone and just go for it and dive in and not hold back because they're scared. And so just having that ability to understand kind of where you are in your own personal journey and where you want to be, and how in each and every experience you can push yourself a little bit outside your comfort zone and possibly even persevere through some really hard, potentially hard experiences.
So since the program does require someone to hold a master's degree when they apply for the program or as they enter the program, do you have any sort of recency rules as far as the length of time someone's come from their DPD undergrad, where the real dietetic content comes from? Do you require someone that, maybe took a while to get their master's or maybe took a while to apply for your program? Do you make them retake anything just to refresh some of the information?
So I would say we don't. We have, as a program, discussed this quite a lot. It doesn't come up a lot because we take so many of our own students, but it actually came up today in a conversation, and it's come up with some of our alumni who come back after their graduate program several years later to apply. They have 5 years to do that, so that's their option. We do not have a formal policy. We kind of take each and every case and work with that individual where they are. So I would say if you're 2 years out, that's probably not a big deal. But I always encourage people to, if they can, even if they're still at a university, maybe they're not doing their dietetics education anymore, but they're doing their graduate degree in a different field. Can you audit an M&T class that's available? Can you audit a nutrition counseling class? But there have been times where we have actually made people repeat the class as well for a grade and sign up at a university because it's been just too long. I would say those are the two, medical nutrition therapy and nutrition counseling are the two pieces where I feel like it is very helpful to the intern to feel confident going into their experiential learning with that information fresh in their head.
Do you find that even among your own applicants, do the students tend to take the DTR exam while they're working on their master's just to kind of have that credential and go through that experience of taking, like I call it the RD exam junior? Do you find applicants have DTR credentials more than?
Never. I have yet to have an applicant, I think, that I can remember in recent history that has a DTR credential.
Interesting. So if a student had a shaky go with the undergrad experience, but then when they went into a grad program they were passionate about, say they knocked it out with a 4.0 GPA, are you going to look at the graduate GPA really high because of the difficulty that takes, or are you still relying very heavily on the DPD component?
We look at both your graduate overall GPA and your DPD grades. So we don't put as much weight on your undergraduate GPA, but we do look at those DPD courses. That said, we've got plenty of applicants and people who are in the program that have DPD courses that they did not do well in. So it's just one piece of the very large puzzle that makes us a human, and realizing that, at the end of the day, grades are grades, and there's sometimes just some things that get in the way from you getting a good grade, and that doesn't mean that you aren't capable as a student and an intern. I do like to see, and this is just my own personal, I don't want to call it bias, but personal preference. I love it when I see people who have work experience, when they went to their undergrad and then they went and got some life experience before they got their graduate degree and then are applying to the internship. That to me speaks volume for maturity and just, a more well-rounded kind of take on the internship than I think people who have never really had that kind of full-time work experience.
So on average, how many applicants do you usually see external from your own each year that actually go through DICAS?
That's so hard to even put a handle on. Not many. And that's because honestly, we don't normally even advertise. Like, this is the first year I've done any advertising. because we just generally don't have to. In fact, 2 years ago, we had to turn some of our own students away because we had so many pre-selects. So this is sort of a new place for us. So traditionally, we've pulled the most of our match people come from second round because we haven't even had our stuff together to even think about it until it's kind of almost too late for first round, because our own application deadline kind of bumps up to DICAS's and the timing's not great. And sometimes our own students make their own decisions at the last minute and decide to go into the match themselves, and we don't know. So we don't get many this year. I assume that's going to be different. We did a virtual open house. I really promoted it to a lot of the graduate program DPD directors. I've reached out to all of the places where we have received students from the match previously. And so I've done a lot more advertising per se. So I expect that we'll get a lot more first round applications this time.
All right. Well, my last question has to do with some of the changes that you've had to make this year with everything going on with COVID-19. Are there any changes that you've had to make that you're realizing you actually enjoy or like, or the interns are enjoying, to where you might keep some sort of virtual element or some sort of whatever you had to change to get students the same experience in their supervised practice? Is there anything you're planning on keeping?
Well, I think the field in general, healthcare, telehealth, here to stay. This really ramped it to a point that it needed to be at, and the field was so slow to get it going, but this made us understand that we could do telehealth well and effectively. And so I think especially those outpatient clinical dietitians, there's always going to be a piece of telehealth that's now part of their job. And so therefore that means it's going to be part of our intern experience as well. My guess is the preceptors are probably going to be a little bit more project days, like days where you might just be working on projects. Have the opportunity to do it from wherever you like, as opposed to mandate you be sitting in their offices doing stuff like that. I'm a little bit torn on that one, because there is something to be said for being able to pop in and ask a question, and it does move the process along a lot faster. That's been a definite challenge this year. But my guess is that some things like that will stay. There will still be some sort of aspect of remote, even when we are all sort of past COVID.
All right. Well, that was all the questions I had for this evening. So to close us out, give us just one brief take-home message for potential applicants this year.
Take-home message. I think that our program is well-rounded. I think it's I know I've spoken to so many students who feel a little different, maybe because they don't necessarily want to become a clinical dietitian, and that's where the focus is so put in dietetics. And so I think we are a great program for those who don't know what they want to do yet and want to kind of experience a multitude of different things and know that they maybe like clinical dietetics might not be for them. And so I think we're a program that, allows for you to have so many of your own opportunities of your choosing, while still providing that structure there so that it's not completely overwhelming to kind of create a program on your own. So I also think that we're housed in a awesome university. And so you can't put enough emphasis on that. And don't be scared if you're not from this area. It is cold and gloomy, but it's not terrible. And you can learn all sorts of new things about winter by living in Michigan for a year.
All right. Thank you again, Sarah, for being with us this evening. And for those at home who want more information about the program at the University of Michigan, I provided the program website link in the description below this video. And as always, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss an episode with another awesome dietetic internship. And we'll see you next time.